25th, I'm not sure how it could be March 25th already, but March 25th meeting of the Land Association. Start out with roll call. We have two board members who, at this point in time, are not here, and they may still be showing up. Sometimes they happen to get here late, they're both working. Jason Summers and Kevin Crouch. Can I have a motion to excuse their absence if they do not come?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Then we have lots of residents in attendance today. Thank you all for coming. Rich LeBeurth, Stan Berlin, Tina Austin, Kathy Seiler, Pat Breslin, Millie Sample, Sherry Phillips, Greg Whitbeck, and Gregory Olson. Thank you all for coming. I understand that Pat Breslin is generally going to be the spokesperson. If after he's done, we have others who need to speak, we can talk about it at that time. Pat's done this and knows the rules. He has 5 minutes to educate us all. Thank you for coming.
It's just an informative update about the efforts by myself and many of my friends to stop the construction of the Green Island Road path. To bring you up to speed, on December the 5th, the engineering department had an open house to show the plan, and then they accepted comments in writing for a month. After the month was over, they announced by letter that, here's a copy of the letter, that they would change the plan, and substantial changes. It's summarized here, but essentially the path was going to be halfway on one side of the Green Island Road, halfway on the other side with a crosswalk. Actually 2 crosswalks, because you cross again at the 4-way stop. The new plan is have all of it on the west side of Green Island Road, and adding traffic lights at the 4-way intersection. Substantial changes. So I asked them, would there be another open house? Because the comments given in here were 210 people opposed, only 106 in support. Certainly with that kind of negative reaction, and now a whole new plan, there would be an open house. No open house. So then I asked, well, will you take any comments? And they said, yes, we'll take any comments that come in. So I wrote a 2-page letter to the chief of engineering with my major concern. There are a lot of different concerns about the path, but for me, it's mainly about safety, and it's mainly about squeezing in a path under the West Cross overpass. I don't know how you can do it safely. So I detailed that in a 2-page letter. Then I wrote to the county manager asking, why can't there be another open house? Then 51 of my friends sent emails, all opposing the path. And this is all public record. And then lastly, I sent an email yesterday to the director of the engineering department saying, what kind of feedback have you been getting? I know some of my friends have been writing, but anybody else been writing? So I'm waiting for an answer on that. And then I received a call from the county manager's office scheduling a meeting with our group on April 16th. It would be the county manager, Michael Kagan, and the chairman of the Board of Commissioners, Chester Ellis. The one thing I skipped over here was that in December, after the open house, we did do the appropriate thing within the elected officials structure. Our local commissioner, Pat Farrell, is the sponsor of this project. He was the person we should speak to first, and he did. And he gave us an hour of his time, but he was adamant that the path will proceed. So that's why we then proceeded to try to show that the path is a problem, regardless of his opinion about it. I also went to Congressman Buddy Carter's office and talked about it being government waste as well as dangerous. That pretty much summarizes where we are, but I wanted to let you folks know that there's a strong effort going on to stop this, and it's being driven by individuals like us who just feel strongly about it. The one side note is whenever I do talk to anybody, including the elected officials, they always ask, what does TLA say? And I realize that it's a touchy situation deciding whether to take a position at all, and if so, what the position is. But I am concerned that silence could be misinterpreted as acquiescence, or, we don't see a problem with it. In fact, in that letter that they issued on January 31st, the engineering department said, the TLA is planning to install gate arms and security checkpoints to control access to and from various subdivisions along the project corridor, and coordination with TLA will continue through project development. It doesn't say in plain words the TLA supports this, but and again, it could be misinterpreted that the TLA is kind of cooperating with this. So my purpose here is to be informative, and I've given you information and leave it with you.
We appreciate your time and feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could you identify your primary concerns about the project?
For me, the primary concern is you have a 10-foot wide path at be several feet from the road until you get to the middle. In the middle, you got a firehouse with an emergency exit for the fire truck and a constricted area, so the path itself has to come closer to the road, and instead of being 10 feet, it's going to be 8 feet. And the path is designed for golf carts, and we already have a problem with golf cart traffic within the landings. There's no way to police a golf cart in a narrow spot there with a deer and a child on a bicycle and a fire truck all coming up in that one choke point. Other people would argue waste of money. Why are we spending $3 million for golf carts to go from one end of the island to the other? But for me, it's safety.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate your time very much.
Sure, thank you.
Everyone has the consent agenda for today's meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor? Any objections? Mr. Lassner, before you head off to your lacrosse game, and wishing you good luck.
Ready?
We are ready.
Okay. So very brief, I think last time I gave probably too much background, but I have just a brief update on the club. Some of it's a shameless plug for activities there. So this Thursday, 5:30 p.m., Palmetto Clubhouse, we have the club's annual general meeting. We're going to review 2024 and then talk about several 2025 initiatives. And Patty will be joining me for a very brief presentation on the Landings Community Council work, which my sense is being well received. Also, another plug, the first week of April is the Club Car Championship at the club at the Deer Creek course, or really throughout many courses. So if you go to Club Car Championship Attic, for some reason is the name of their website, there's a schedule of events which is open to the public. So it's not all golf, it's a lot of family-oriented things, and so it's a great thing for our community. So we had a board meeting February 28th, and so it covered the first 2 months of the year. And just high level, the club is on budget. We're hitting our numbers for the first 2 months. That's very, very little track record yet. But so the budget is meeting our expectations, or our performance is meeting our budget expectations. Our membership numbers are down net 15, which is a very small amount, and that is just in line with our projections. The first quarter of every year, we lose members simply because that's when people seem to make those decisions. So everything is fine as far as we can tell so far. So good when it comes to that aspect. At the board meeting, I brought up I'll call it a business environment report put out by the Savannah Area Chamber of Commerce. And it was published in January 2025, and so our board has reviewed it, discussed it briefly, but it talks all about Savannah economic trends. And we all feel it, know it when we drive up to Pooler and whatnot, what the trends are, but the trends are all very interesting, and so we're looking at it from the standpoint of our future strategic plan for the club. But everything is getting more expensive, more competitive for employees, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my report.
One quick question, you mentioned the annual meeting's at 5:30, the doors open at 5:30, the meeting actually is
It starts at 6.
Okay.
We always have a beverage or two before we start.
I just wanted to make sure that people were attending, that they knew,
Yes, yep.
doors open at 5:30,
You're
but the
correct.
meeting's actually at 6.
Can you spell that website, the Club Card website that lists
It's
these
Club
things?
Card Championship,
Okay.
attic.com.
Attic, like in your
Yeah,
house.
I don't know why they call it that, but that's
Okay.
what it is. And it lists all the events, first
Thank
page.
Any questions for Mark? Thank you very much,
Okay,
good luck in your game.
thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on to new business. Uh-oh.
I have one quick announcement. We finally have the 8 Wi-Fi access nodes active in the Delagal part of the community. We'll have a communication coming out next week about that. There are poles that Sean helped identify, and if you're in the area, you'll see TLA light poles, so you know that you are with them. We'll have some communication coming out, letting people know about it. We have some beta testers that several who live in that area that I was corresponding with today, because we just got them finalized last week. The names updated this week to try to provide some feedback. I've tested them. Can't guarantee it works inside your house, like we've always said, but if you're out and about, we're hoping that helps expand our Wi-Fi network for Wi-Fi calling. Interestingly too, it used to always be that Verizon was the best, and we're hearing more complaints about Verizon and AT&T. And I've been driving around with my T-Mobile phone, and I'm getting solid 4 out of 5 bars at both ends of the islands, including in some areas where people say they're having trouble with it. A different person, not that far away from here, was having trouble with Verizon in his house, and he's now switched over to AT&T and says it's great. So it's switched. T-Mobile keeps getting the best nationwide coverage. They have 3 years in a row or so. And I'm starting to hear that locally here as well. When we used to tell people, have you tried Verizon? Now it's going to be, have you tried AT&T? So we're trying to do all of the above with it, of try your carrier, turn on Wi-Fi calling, and then we're trying these pilot program, and then we'll publicize it more widely as well next week. So
whatever carrier you have, hopefully this is of
This-
some help, and
yes.
It may be area of the island specific.
right, exactly. So we'll see how it goes. It's pretty low cost to do what we're doing right here, and if we need to expand it in some areas, we can do that as well.
So it's essentially a test pilot, and so we'll see where we go from there.
For sure.
So Carl, I forwarded your email to one of the people that's been one of the primary people of interest today, and
Good.
ask him to test it and give me feedback.
Perfect. Please let me know what he has to say, or shoot it directly over either way. So we'll see how it goes. So
Or she has to say.
He or she.
I think he said he, so I'll give it.
Okay.
I'll give you props for that.
he, she, they, all of the above. Whoever's in the household will be happy about that.
All right,
So
anything else for Jessica?
no, I think we're ready for Jessica. Oh, yeah, she's over here today. Thank you. Monthly
You have a
financial.
different view from that side. It's nice. The financial report in your packet and what we will review is as of February of 2025. At the end of February, total cash equaled 6.9 million and total investments 10.341. Total interest earnings in the month of February between our operating and capital reserve accounts equaled $49,006. The total cash balance at the end of February was $930,000 more than February of 2024. Total operating revenue at the end of February was $10,000 less than our budget, $497,000 more than where we ended in 2024. Total operating expenses before depreciation were $128,000 better than our budget, and $189,000 more than last year in February, mainly due to the purchase of the vacuum trailer in 2025 and increases in staffing expenses. Net operating revenue over expense $70,896, which was $117,000 better than our budget. Some of the main drivers for that better than budget on the revenue side: vehicle registration performed more than budget, mainly due to annual vehicle registrations. Our rental income, we've seen less of a revenue share from our cell phone revenue from Crown Castle, and also on our storage yard facility. On the other, this is mainly due to our Comcast revenue share. It was the timing of when that was paid to us from Comcast that posted in March versus when we had the budget in February. On staffing, we performed better than budget, mainly due to some vacancies that created turnover. On our IT support, better than budget, mainly due to the timing of our budget for database transition versus the expense, and that work is currently ongoing and expenses are posting in March. On insurance, we performed better than budget at the end of February. Probably won't hear that comment again for the rest of this year after we talk through this renewal. We did receive an $11,000 refund after our general liability audit was complete. On the capital reserve expenditures at the end of February, we had spent $302,000 of the $5.8 million. 70% of that on roads, 22% storm drains, 4% marinas, 3% on paths, 1% on bridges, structures, and equipment. We had one project that was carried forward from last year that was completed. The nature trail and the backflow preventer. After that project was completed, we did end at $22,000 above what our budget projected due to the size of the pipe that was necessary to complete for the best water outflow possible. Our members' equity at the end of February equaled $13.3 million, which was an increase of $522,000 from the beginning of this year. We currently have 16 non-assessment accounts that have a past due balance of 60 days, and we have 5 assessment accounts from last year and the year prior with an unpaid balance. Of those 5 assessment payments, 1 is currently on a payment plan through our collection attorney, and 1 is in probate. The 2025 annual dues collection, we are at 89% collected. We have 324 members that are enrolled in a quarterly payment plan. That's down 59 from what we had enrolled last year. And we have 201 members enrolled in a monthly payment plan, which is up 24 from last year. So we see a net of 35 less members that have enrolled in a payment plan. I did send a target email message out to the last 518 members that make up that 11% balance this morning, just letting them know that it was due and to please encourage their payment prior to April 1st, when privileges will be suspended, a late fee imposed, and interest charges do begin. Any question on the financials?
Okay, I think you were going to talk about the property and casualty insurance renewals?
Yes, I'm going to sit down for this. We received our first full draft, I will say, of the renewal information about 2 o'clock this afternoon. We have a few lines, the excess liability lines that our carriers are continuing to work through, hoping for better prices. This has been a significant delay in even getting renewal costs to us than the years previous. It's becoming industry standard, unfortunately. If you look on the pages that you were provided, this will outline every line of coverage that the association will renew. You can see a decrease all the way on one line of coverage from 20%, which is from our workers' compensation line, due to our modification level dropping, providing us with a much better renewal rate than we saw last year, all the way to a 268% increase on our excess liability line. The insurance committee recommended that a $5,000 per year commission increase be adjusted for our broker, and that is included in the total cost that we are asking for. There are other options of excess liability coverage that are being actively pursued by our broker. The quoted coverage for umbrella from Markel does have assault and battery exclusion, which USI has requested to be removed since we have that coverage on our GL excess liability line with Brown Yard. So there are potential savings also in that category. As of right now, what we will ask for approval is the renewal to not to exceed $976,677. This is a 19% increase from what we saw last year. We budgeted a 12% increase for last year. This puts us at $49,000 above our budget. However, this is going to be continually worked on until April 1st, which is the date that we will sign with those carriers to bind our coverage. And we will be happy to report back out to this board, the insurance committee, and the finance committee when we get final numbers.
I do want to comment out, and Jessica touched on it, but besides it being late getting to us for the excess liability, getting into the umbrella coverage, that's driving the premium increase right there. We've talked the last few years that it's getting harder for property owners associations to get adequate umbrella coverage, and you're seeing how much you can, how much they will give you, and the rates are going up for that at the same time. So that's really driving it. But our broker will continue to work this until April 1 to see if we can get some movement over what we were quoted at today.
We did ask our broker what that would look like if we increased deductibles. He did not think that was in our best interest, that the savings would not be comparable to what those increase in deductibles would warrant. A lot of the carriers already come into this renewal with a price point that they already have set. And so we didn't feel, he does not advise to do that and didn't see that we would have a tremendous amount of savings by going that route. That is part of our one of the draft strategic plan opportunities was to see if our increase in deductibles could provide a separate reserve fund. This year on the property and casualty side, it doesn't appear to be so, but we can continue to look at that on the health insurance side later in the year.
Did we look at that on the auto?
The auto is one of the higher coverage lines, and the state of Georgia doesn't have the best reputation for runaway verdicts. I believe that's what they are.
But we did with our auto a couple of years ago. We don't have full replacement values scheduled for all the automobiles. So there's some on there we just have liability on.
In fact, not only are we not favorable, we're one of the worst.
Yeah.
Now, whether
Well, I
the
was
court
asking
reform
about
gives
the
us any
deductible on
comfort, we'll
collision.
see.
I think we have the highest deductible that'll allow us to take on autos.
In 6 years that I have been here, we have not made a claim to any of our automobile coverage.
Just try.
I don't know.
I'd just like to tell the committee that, the board that, I go to a lot of committee meetings and I'm impressed with the level of expertise. The insurance committee I was blown away with. There is so much knowledge in different parts of the insurance industry, whether it's somebody who's an attorney who's on one side of a claim and people on the other side. It was truly, truly amazing how much depth of information there was, and I think we should be really, I'm glad for everybody who works on our committees, but this is a really top-notch group.
This renewal, as it states right now, has been approved by both the insurance committee and the finance committee as of 3:58 this afternoon.
Can I have a motion to, what, I thought we did the motion before the question is actually done. Okay, go ahead.
Jessica, any significant differences in coverages between last year and this year?
Hayden, can you speak to what those are?
Yes, made a note. So the things you'll see in the policy changes, there wasn't many. We did remove our cyber deductible from our commercial general liability. It was previously $2,500, and now we just removed that that deductible for that line of coverage. The next you'll see outlined is the storage tank liability for Liberty Mutual. This was reduced from $350,000 to $10,000 over in this renewal process, mainly due to the like renovation of those storage tanks at Lanning's Harbor. And then finally, we added 100% co-insurance to our marina dry package with Joe. And so those were the only three distinctions that were made this year, or changes that were made between the policies.
Can I have a motion to approve an amount not to exceed 976,677 for the insurance renewal?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any further questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Thank you, Jessica. And we'll hopefully hear that they've come up with a little bit of magic.
Yes. Here in the community building. So Lynn, we'll need to update that board action item in the journal.
You got it.
Okay, because that's a different number.
Aaron and Community Development.
Here. There we go. All right, I am happy to be here to share with you the activity from the month of February. Starting off with, we had our permits issued by the month. We had 175 permits issued last month versus 103 the previous year. That's the most permits that have ever been issued ever in a month. Ever. I'm not sure what that is going to tell us about what's happening in the community. But again, I'm just gonna say it's continued investment, continued improvement, people taking care of their properties and continuing to invest in the things they find important. In terms of applications reviewed by the ARC, we had 48 versus 21 the same time last year. So we saw a market increase in that as well. We are seeing that the agendas are staying heavy and that we've got a lot of activity still coming through the committee. Lots of variances. That is something that's coming out. Lots of generators and variances. So that is a topic that ARC is carefully considering, and the impact on what all of those generators running, when a storm occurs and how that's really going to impact neighbors. And they've been thinking about that a lot. So we may actually see some revisions to the architectural guidelines by the end of the year. So we'll see how that goes. So the summary of construction activity, we didn't have any new homes complete this last month, but we did have one new construction start. We had 6 major improvements, 105 minor improvements, 46 dumpsters, porta-johns and portable storage units, and then 16 permit extensions. On that trend, I wanted to look and see if the anecdotal evidence that we had more minor improvements was true, and so I did a little comparison to see how these minor improvement permits, such as like roofing, painting, maintenance, minor features, broke down over a monthly average. And so I know this looks a little bit light. I didn't think it was going to be quite this light on your screen, but in 2020 we averaged 49 per month, 2021 63 per month, 2022 47 per month, 2023 43 per month, 2024 67 per month, and so far this year 87 per month. So market increase. When we came down to our private property maintenance violations, we were down a little bit. We had 11 in February versus 16 the same time last year. Our courtesy notices were bumped up a bit. We had 17 versus 8. Between the courtesy notices and the violations, the amount of contact from our department was roughly the same both years. When we look at our inspection activity for the month, we had 304 site visits that were related to ARC inspections, 1,104 proactive inspections, 68 follow-ups, those are related to properties that were already in violation, and then 25 property violations were resolved with 92% of them without formal written notice. When we look at the breakdown of the violations that we observed, 4% were hazardous trees, 14% were driveways, 36 were home maintenance, we had 5% with landscaping, and then 41% were ARC related. And that's typically a situation when we see work going on without a permit, or if there's a violation on a construction site or something like that. So we were busy with those this month. Were there any questions?
Any questions for Aaron? Busy month.
It was very busy.
But the reinvestment's great.
Absolutely.
Tim?
Okay, security statistics for the month of February. No Part 1 crimes, one vandalism and one trespass happened. The vandalism was over in our bathrooms over there. We did catch the suspect, and we have fined them $250 for vandalism. The trespass was a pine straw vendor. They went into Deer Creek. They tailgated by someone else. We were able to make contact with them before they left the property. CCPD wasn't involved, and they issued them a no trespass warning. Interestingly enough, during this last month, we've got 3 notifications from other directors of security up in South Carolina. They're having a major problem with the pine straw scammers, and basically what they do is they'll come in, and again, they're being tailgated as well up there. They'll go to a house, say, hey, listen, we just, did Mary and Tom's house down the street. We got some extra pine straw. Love to be able to sell what we haven't used to you at a very reduced rate of $3 per bale. And of course they say okay, and they quote them, okay, it's going to take 100 bales to do your house. They start doing it, then they say, oh, we misquoted. It's going to take 400 bales to do your house, and we've already put them down. So you owe us X. And then sometimes they get the people to pay. Other times they say, no, well, I'm just going to pay you what we agreed upon. And then, they start arguing and take it from there. So they're hitting everybody. So just be on the lookout for them. Anybody ever arrives at your doorstep, as you know, no solicitation in the community. So just tell them, just a minute, hold on, I got to get this phone call or something, or call us. Okay? And then we'll come out and take care of it from that. So Guardian Pro statistics, you can see from there, 47 in the bucket from 41 to 46 mile an hour. 5 from 47 to 51, and fortunately nobody above that. I did a comparison. It looks like overall in the particular area where it's at now, we had a 29.7 decrease in overall number of citations, and again we had I think 2 in the 52 to 56 bin last month. So
I think I was behind a vendor who must have gotten a ticket because they were going 20 down Landing's Way South.
well,
I was like, it must be working.
and again, interesting enough, data-driven decisions. Before we had the Guardian Pro, I got a lot of calls saying, hey, you have a problem with vendors. Vendors are the main ones speeding out here. Last month's 55 residents, 2 vendors, and 0 employees. Anyway, interesting. So golf cart statistics, down from 1 to 0. Violations issued down from 11 to 3. And unlicensed driver violations down from 7 to 3. So again, hopefully they're getting the message as well. Warnings issued, 89 in February of 2024, and only 6 in 2025. So citations, again, 14 citations issued in 2024, 17 this year. And of course, that's not the Guardian Pro. So fines were kind of pretty much the same, 1447 versus 1450. Appeals Committee heard 5 cases on March 12th, 2025, and all 5 of them were denied. Any questions?
What's the nature of those citations?
I can look. I don't know that off the top of my head.
These were not Guardian Pro, so they weren't speeding.
They weren't speeding. No.
What else do we cite people for?
Well, the one would have been for vandalism. That was one citation there. That was 250. Others could be putting the trash out early, or I can look for you if you want those statistics.
Any other questions for Tim? Thank you.
Okay.
We have one committee appointment that we'd like to have you approve. We've had a resignation on the appeals committee. Roger Lundeen, who had been on the committee previously, we would like to have him go back on as an alternate. So I would like a motion to. Second. All in favor? Any objections? All right, we will notify Roger.
All right, Larry, seawall repairs.
Okay, on page 33 is the staff report for the seawall repairs at Landings Harbor Marina. The board workshop, several questions came up. I went back pressing to the contractor and their engineer on these, and the supplier for the material. Quickly to answer those questions, Myrick says 3 to 4 weeks to do this job, start to finish. He does have some tide restrictions. They will only be able to work down low, low down on the wall during a low tide. So with that, he's saying 3 to 4 weeks is their time frame. The seawall panels, the warranty is 1 year. The whalers, they all have, and they're all covering, carry a 1 year warranty. Material availability is 2 months. The whalers are a little shorter period as far as being available, 4 to 5 weeks. The panels themselves are closer to 2 months. And then we also looked at what would it take if we went ahead and did the modifications to the entrance to divert the silt and maintain integrity of the basin. I feel like at this point, we need to put that on the table. There would be some mobilization savings if we were able to get that lumped in with the project. We know we're 2 months away just from material orders, so I would like to have a little more time to investigate it. I did get some feedback from the engineers and from Myrick Marine on what it would cost to put a 50-foot wall out coming off of the basin, and that was roughly $100,000, maybe just slightly higher. So there was some confusion there as far as exactly what we were looking for. If we were to get this included in the project that we need for the repairs, we would do it under a minor or a maintenance permit with DNR. And that's a little easier to get than a major permit. Major permits, 8 to 9 months. Maintenance permits, they're a little bit quicker, and could very well possibly be during the week that he's here, 2 months further down the road once the material arrives. There's a problem with that, and that problem is with a maintenance permit, if you are maintaining something, that means you take something out and you put something back identical or very similar to that. We don't want to take any of the wall out to protect the basin. The proposal to add that 50-foot wall to divert the silt and redirect the current away from the entrance means we take the wall out that's behind it. That wall protects the basin from passing vessels and from storm surge coming into the harbor. There are other options that I think we need to look at, and looking at that and looking at, if Myrick is the contractor that we want to use, he's not very far away. I'm trying to get what their mobilization fees are. I haven't been given that number, but I'm gonna guess at about between $15,000 and $20,000 to get them to mobilize, or less, depending on where they are within this area. But their home base is relatively close. So at this point, I would propose that we investigate redesigning the entrance and modifying the seawall, move forward with the repairs. If we do at the end of the, once we do decide if we want to modify the entrance, some of the panels that we do install, we may be able to reuse in different locations. But I couldn't get a very good grasp of exactly what we needed, and what the engineer was coming up with I didn't feel very comfortable with adding another $100,000 onto this project and and not having it work the way we work, or having a repercussion of removing that wall and being in a worse position than we are now with fighting those elements.
So our thinking is bring it forward now for the original plan, get the approval so we can go ahead and order the materials and get on a schedule, continue to work the plan, and if it's something that can be handled under a minor permit and we can get an engineering plan and design we agree with, we will come back to the finance committee and the board to ask for additional funding to go ahead and make that modification to the seawall at the same time. But we didn't want to hold up this project any longer than it's been held up.
And the proposed funding sources for the
Yes, you have a
project
sheet
are-
in front of you that Jessica has pulled together that shows how we're able to handle the funding for this particular project. This is more than is what is needed. We're hoping we don't need the full 34,000 contingency as well that we already funded in.
Because this is slightly more than slightly more than what was originally budgeted because of the storm.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, question, if we proceed as you suggest, Carl, do we miss the window to add the extension while the construction is underway?
Hopefully not, if we can agree with the engineering plan, because as he's talking about, it's still at least 2 months out for materials, and that doesn't even count their scheduling. They won't even schedule us till we get this approved.
Right.
So once we get it approved and they'll get it scheduled, Larry will continue to work with the engineers and with Myrick to say what makes sense, and if we can make it make sense, we'll bring that back to the board. So we might have another vote next month, and we always can vote electronically if we need to as well.
To me, the question is if we order the 152 feet that we need now, and now we've got to order an additional 50 feet, and it takes 2 months and we delay the order for the additional 50 feet a month before we make that decision.
I think we just push back with Myrick on the install. Same kind of thing with our
That's
dry stack phase
That's what I was.
3. Yep. Same exact thing with that. We just pushed back the install based on materials and permitting, and this is both.
So we might have, 150 feet here a month before we're actually going to do the install because we're waiting on the other.
Depends on how we're bringing it in, if he's barging it in or whatever.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Can I have a motion to approve the $433,000 for the seawall repair?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? I'm sorry. Any further questions for Larry before the vote? I'm sorry. We've been asking questions before with the motions and now I'm confused.
Are they still working at the yacht club? You said last time that they were working at the yacht club and they might be here.
They're still in the process. That's the new marina that's being built on Hutchinson Island.
Right by there.
Yeah, they're still working through there.
But they have different divisions.
Oh, okay.
So that division that may be working over there wouldn't be the same division that would come here to do that.
Marion, sorry.
No problem. So Larry, and Jessica, this doesn't consider the fact that you're also gonna do better than your budget, right? So there's gonna be extra money there, do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So-
We always like more money than,
So if we're gonna work to get some more funds from your
Yeah, no
operating.
doubt.
all right, now
Thanks.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may be familiar with the fact that we had appointed Virginia Lassner to be on the Linings Company Board, and we approved her as treasurer. She has now taken a real job and has resigned as treasurer from the Linings Company Board. So there is a recommendation to appoint Randy Hatch, who I think you are all familiar with. He was previously the company's treasurer, to fill that vacancy. So, motion to move. Second.
Second.
Any further discussion on that before I call for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Now, the topic that has consumed a lot of time, our strategic plan. It is in your packet as we have last reviewed it and modified it. It is still a draft, but it reflects the basis of our several months of input and focus groups and residential input, et cetera, stakeholder input. I'd like a motion to approve this distribution of this draft plan to the residents for further feedback and comment, hopefully maybe by next month. Can I have a motion that to approve? Second.
Second.
Any discussion about the draft plan as contained in your packet to be sent out as a draft plan to the residents?
I'll make one comment on that. We are, your president's report links to it, and so that's going out in the morning. A couple hours after that, we're gonna have a standalone email that goes out to the community inviting feedback. We're asking for feedback until April 10th. That'll give us a chance to consider any feedback in advance of our next board workshop and work through any updates on it. Simultaneously, staff are working on the draft action plans to go along with the draft objectives. Kate, our consultant, provided us a template last Wednesday or Thursday, so we've been starting to work on it. We'll look at it again tomorrow. Hope to have it out to the strategic planning committee for review in the next couple of weeks. The focus being on 2025 as we talked about, and then we'll start filling out the actions for the 26 and 27 plans as well.
Bill?
I would encourage you to put some message to the community that recognizes that there are no dates or by such and such time in these objectives, because there are experts in the community that will undoubtedly comment on that if that's.
The dates,
Yeah,
I think
please
actually will go
say-
with the
say it
action
up.
items, which will then feed up into
They
the
will.
Yeah,
total,
just
but
say-
yes,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
We
say that
put that in the
it's going to
communication.
be added in there at some appropriate time.
Just some kind of line that will, after feedback with action items put in, we'll have a timetable or some time schedule or something.
Right.
Yep.
And to the extent that there are residents who are watching or will watch this meeting, we do want your comments, so please give us feedback. It's your strategic plan as well.
Yes.
All in favor of submitting the strategic plan?
Aye.
Any objections? All right. Moving on. I think we're at board committee reports.
Yes.
I don't have anything other than thank you for getting the insurance done.
I think, cover it, no, I'm good, thank you. On governance committee, we do have a, proposal, and it's minor, on page 37. You'll see the Landings Association's fine schedule, and you'll see items, on the left-hand side that are highlighted in blue. So they are narrative changes to, to clarify, non-moving versus moving violations as it relates to vehicles, obviously. So I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any questions for Marion on the fine schedule?
Did a fine job.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections?
On non-assessment revenue.
Strategic audit, Rob.
Sure. Well, we met this month on March 21st. Happy to report that our 12-month rolling average water pumped is down 2%. And that is in addition to the negative 3% that we completed 2024 at. So we're on track, and it appears, at least early in the year, that the efforts to conserve water and get out the message is taking root, and people are taking action to reduce water consumption. We also discussed a communications plan and made a commitment to put one together for our next meeting. And part of our communications plan will include a parody video featuring the Backstreet Boys music to high water that way.
That song has been stuck in my head ever since. I'm like, oh my God.
Are you singing it, Rob?
No, no, the Backstreet Boys are. But the work has already commenced. Work has already commenced on it.
And a little
And-
teaser that it's our
and-
own residents that are going to be,
The visuals of the video will be island centric. So when people are playing that happy tune, they'll see the visuals, and it will include some cameo appearances by the Skidaway Bells. They'll be in it as well, and most likely doing some shooting down at the marina, the North Harbor Landings Marina, out here in the playground area, and some other selected areas around the island. So you'll immediately, the viewer will immediately tune into the music and its beat, and will recognize the song and also recognize the photos and the messages. So anyways, that's underway. Our goal is to have that ready by June, and it seems like we're on track. We also reviewed a partnership with Wetlands Watch, which is a nonprofit out of Norfolk, Virginia. And we have access to an app that some members of the committee have already downloaded, and they're now part of the group that will be measuring coastal flooding and tidal rise. Our wet run, as we call it, will be in September, because it just occurs that most of the higher tides will be in the latter part of the year. And then the actual tracking dates will be dates in October, November, where we know, or at least where it's projected by NOAA, that the tidal level will be about 10.5 feet. So between now and then, we have started looking at vulnerable areas and taking photos now. And in future meetings, I'll be coming forward with, here are areas of the island that we know are going to experience flooding.
and the idea in large part being how we can make sure our infrastructure is what it needs to be, recognizing these areas for outflows and other infrastructure aspects.
Yeah, we'll certainly have a track on risk to the community's assets, and hopefully through the process, we'll start to educate residents as well as to what they can potentially do to mitigate their own risk. So, all good.
Any other questions for Rob? Okay, any other committee reports? Do any other directors have any comments before I give a president's report?
Can I just comment, Sean, on the deer report at the back? I think that and I know we put this out all the time, but the biggest question is how many deer have been killed so far, how many can we kill, and why whatever. How can we how much meat can we send to the food banks? Loads and loads and loads of comments of why don't we petition to have more deer killed than is currently allowed, since there are certainly more deer than when that.
So let me jump in before Sean. Page 57 of your packet, the second down, it has the running total.
Right.
So 58.
That's through the end of February.
Through the end of February. One of our strategic plan objectives that we're sending out to the community for review does indeed focus on that issue of working with our island neighbors and whoever we can to enhance the mitigation of wildlife confrontation, including deer. So I think that's one of our strategic objectives that we really want to look at with not just the association, but with other partners as well. So I think people will see that when it comes out tomorrow.
Well, the other thing that's interesting is we are not alone. There are articles statewide about
Yes.
rising deer population as properties are being cleared and
Peachtree Corners, I think, I
Yes.
just saw that one, and right.
Yeah, so I wasn't, the questions really don't relate so much to, people know that the other areas around here don't do this. They know. What they want to know is, why doesn't DNR raise the number that we're allowed? That's a basic question.
So,
I would say that the DNR, there's two differences, and we don't run an eradication program. We run a management program. Is the first. If you ever went towards DNR and said we want to essentially eradicate or try to remove all, they would deny the program. So we have to work really within their parameters. Part of the goal will be to put together kind of a shareholders group that will be island-wide, like when we first created the program. Work with DNR. I think DNR is getting a lot more pressure now in different areas of the state. That'll help drive a little bit of some changes. We can have DNR come out and do some additional surveys on the property. They've always looked at it as the program's working very well compared to other areas, because understand like Peachtree and other areas, they're probably at 4 times the deer population we are. And then ultimately at the end of the
According
day,
to that article, they don't even know what their population
Right.
is. So.
And it's
Yeah.
4 times per area, it's not just
Yeah.
4 times a day, it's
Correct.
based upon.
So
Yeah,
that
based
kind
on-
of information would be really good to tell people. I know they don't read, but you know, at least we can say we've put that out there. I mean, that's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, and the other part of it will be too is to really understand, where we live. We live on the edge of civilization essentially. When you look at all the wild areas around us, which is part of the beauty of the community, we have Oswald, Wausau, Green Island, Wormslow. There's all these undisturbed areas. Which are prime habitats, and so we'll also have to look at mitigation strategies of what people are comfortable with to restrict kind of that migration in and out, but also it's restricting abuse and some other things, so there's a balance point with a lot
The
of
most creative one was, why don't we have feeding stations for them in the spray fields? Just keep them all over there.
Yeah.
But Sean,
Yeah.
don't we still have room under the current standards to cull more?
We haven't been challenged on the levels by DNR. When they've come out and done surveys, we've been right at the level, which they said is appropriate. And the last time we had them out, we asked them to lower it slightly to about 10 to 12 deer versus 12 to 15.
Right.
Which they said essentially 10 to 15 would be our goal. So they didn't really lower it. They gave us a little bit lower threshold, but a little bit higher.
So in what area is that, 10 to 15?
10 to 15 deer per square mile.
That's where I'm,
is the goal. And I will say the other thing to be very cautious of as we go through this process with the strategic plan is that Georgia has just identified chronic wasting disease in the state, which is a prion-based disease that will affect deer. On the other side of the coin is in areas where hunting is a big revenue generator, licensing for this generates a lot of money for the state. And so there is a resource that's going to be affected by a disease as it has in multiple other areas, the Midwest, out in the central and west coast. And so they're probably going to be a little bit more protective of the animals than they haven't been in the past even too. So we'll try to work through some of those. And
It is, however, still against the rules and regulations to feed the deer, to put out salt licks, to do all those things to attract the deer.
yes. And I'll say that a lot of the challenges where you're talking about with this high density is not natural. Deer walking up on porches is not natural. That is learned behavior because they are being fed. I've seen videos of residents hand feeding deer. That's not natural behavior. And
it's also, Greg Freeman was pointing out to me that where you see the heat map of the highest water users in the center of the island is also where we see a lot of the deer issues.
Yeah, you can almost overlay the two.
So when you have the high water with the intricate landscape, that also attracts the deer.
if you have videos of people hand feeding them, shouldn't we be finding them?
So if we can prove somebody did it, we will find them. The hard time is proving when was the video taken, who saw it, or a picture, whatever the case may be. So it's a challenge of something like that. But if we don't have the proof, then we're not going to find them.
Yeah, and that one had a specific. It was that was a rehabilitation deer. It was orphaned, and and there's always a backstory to all of it that makes it very difficult to follow through on.
But it is important that our residents understand not only is it against our rules, it's not good for the deer.
It's
It hurts
not
them.
healthy
I mean,
for
it
the
gives
deer,
them the deformed hoofs and the pain and everything
Right.
else, so
Which
please
we
don't
are
keep it
seeing.
here.
We're seeing that, yeah.
Any other comments? Brief direct president's report. Kudos to all of the TLA staff who has reached particular anniversaries, including Sean and his 20th anniversary year.
I'm here when I started
I'd also like to note that, for those of you that haven't followed it, there have been more than a few complaints about unburied Comcast/Xfinity cables. TLA has sent them a notice, a 60-day notice saying you need to bury the cables, and here's a very long list of ones that we are aware of, somewhere slightly south of maybe 100 particular addresses where there are unburied cables. They have been working with Sean, and they are apparently taking this somewhat seriously. They have started burying the cables. Not as fast as we would like, not as many as we would like so far, but it's a concerted path, and so we're happy to be making some progress, and thank you for moving that along.
Yes.
Mark mentioned briefly the Land Use Community Leadership Council. We did meet last week. I think that is going well, so more on that to come. And last but not least, we talked about the strategic plan earlier. A lot of time and effort has been put into it. We've made good progress, and we are looking forward to getting feedback from the community and putting in the action items and getting it finalized and moving on. So that's all I have to report. Anything else before we adjourn to executive session? Okay. Adjourn to executive session. That was funny.